anybody who has any connection to reality about what is going on around them should have watched that and said, the adults are back in the room.
It seems as though we have a professional adult once again in the White House who's just simply doing the work.
Really, the theme, I would say, is the adults are back.
Still, it is a relief to have adults in charge.
Now we have adults in the White House.
Okay, the adults are back in the room.
There is a sense, I think, the world over that the adults have returned.
We have an adult in the White House now, and it's glorious.
Before we get into this video, make sure you hit like, share my videos, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Also, make sure that your notifications are on and they're set to all. Now, let's get into this. But first, quick commercial break. Now, with all that's happening in the world right now, it's no wonder that you're worried. So am I. Let's be real. Nobody knows what's going to happen. And that is why you need the certainty of gold and silver in your investments. Precious metals will keep you safe from inflation and financial turmoil. And this month, for any qualifying IRA, you'll get an incredible 3-ounce silver American Virtue coin completely free as a thank you. Now you know what to do. Call 877-646-5347 now to find out more, or you can just visit noblegoldinvestments.com. Now, let's get back to this video.
Joe Biden is a great president. He is a gift.
I was going to put him foot.
As I've said to him, don't say I told you this, but what I've said to him sometimes, I'm glad you didn't win before because we really needed you to win now for president.
Imagine had the tobacco industry been immune to prostitute being sued. Come on.
He's perfect. He's perfect for now. I mean, it would have been perfect then, but perfect. We need him now because he, as I said before, showed progress, gives hope, shows empathy for the needs that people have. But in everything that he does, he is so inclusive by making sure that everything is about justice, about whether we're talking about
Because of the actions we've taken to address the Putin price hike, we are in a better place than we were last month. But we expect March CPI headline inflation to be extraordinarily elevated due to Putin's price hike. And we expect a large difference between core and headline inflation, reflecting the global disruptions in energy and food markets. So core inflation doesn't include energy and food prices. Headline inflation does. And of course, we know that core inflation, energy, the impact of energy, of course, on oil prices, gas prices, we expect that to continue to reflect what we've seen the increases be over the course of this invasion. And just as an example, since President Putin's military buildup accelerated in January, average gas prices are up more than 80 cents. Most of the increase occurred in the month of March, and at times gas prices were more than $1 above pre-invasion level. So that roughly 25% increase in gas prices will drive tomorrow's inflation reading. And certainly it's not a surprise to us, but we certainly think it will be reflected.
Putin is trying to bait the trap.
Driven up gas prices and food prices all over the world. We saw today's inflation data. 70% of the increase in prices in March came from Putin's price hike in gasoline.
Putin is trying to bait the trap.
I'm doing everything within my power by executive orders to bring down the price and address the Putin price hike.
Putin is trying to bait the trap.
In fact, we've already made progress since March inflation data was collected. Your family budget, your ability to fill up your tank, none of it should hinge on whether a dictator declares war and commits genocide in half a world away.
There's this whole idea, the White House is just losing the messaging war. If only they knew how good the job situation was. But if you ask Americans, why do you think the economy is bad? It's inflation. The voters know exactly what's going on. They're not stupid.
The increase in prices obviously long predates the war. We've been seeing inflation rise for most of the past year. In fact, for the last 6 months, inflation has been above the Fed's average target of 2%. So this is not just about the war. This is about persistent supply chain problems, and it's about the fact that demand is really, really strong, in part because of policy choices that we've made.
We were covering inflation long before Putin invaded Ukraine. Inflation in the United States in the last year is preceded this attack, and some people hear the president and the White House blaming all of this on Putin and think that's just not accurate, that's just not factual.
Putin is trying to bait the trap.
I don't know what's worse, having CNN poop on you or a bird. But you saw it in that video. You saw a big pile of bird crap on Biden's shoulder, followed by CNN. And I couldn't tell which was more damaging. But I know Harold, you're a politician, but when you say play politics, it's a nice way of saying lying through your teeth. And the Putin price hike is a lie.
Putin is trying to bait the trap.
The White House says those price jumps are happening because of the war and what they call, quote, Putin's price hike. But remember, prices started spiking well before the war in Ukraine began.
You can't really put it all on the war and Putin. I get that we've seen sharp spike in energy and food prices since then, but we're seeing rising prices everywhere, and particularly in housing with rents and shelter in places like apparel that have been rising for the last few months. That's much broader than just what we've seen as a result of the war.
We should note the White House had kind of been bracing for this report, Dana. They had said that they believed these numbers were going to be extraordinarily elevated, and certainly they are very elevated today. And so that is really going to be a focus of the White House. And I would expect to hear the president say Putin's price hike once or twice during this speech, given that has been the way that they have been talking about this.
Putin is trying to bait the trap.
Since this invasion started, of course, gas prices had been going up before this.
When inflation is as high as it is right now, just about at 8%, possibly higher when we see the numbers tomorrow, they just blame the guy in charge, and that's bad news for Biden.
Just how much inflation is soaring, and the numbers are staggering. The consumer price index jumped 8.5% in March from 12 months earlier. That is the biggest year-over-year.
I'm going to have to conduct a fake news symphony. Y'all hear whoever made this clip? They put that nice, cool song I love underneath. Wait a minute.
Just how much inflation is soaring, and the numbers are staggering. The consumer price index jumped 8.5% in March from 12 months earlier. That is the biggest year-over-year growth in 40 years. You have to go back to 1981 to see a similar jump in the costs of food, gasoline, and housing. As the AP frames it, the economic squeeze is effectively wiping out the pay raises that many people have received, and that's probably just the beginning. Joining us now, NBC News senior business analyst and host of the 11th Hour, so we thank you for coming in so early, Stephanie Ruhle. Steph, break it down for us.
It ain't good. When you look at these numbers year over year, you said it. We have not been in this place in 40 years. And the biggest increases, it's gas, it's rent, it's food, all the things you need to buy every day. So the people who are already the most economically vulnerable are going to be hit the hardest. And you mentioned it. We've talked a lot about the good news about wages being up so much over the last year. When you account for inflation, hourly wages are actually down almost 3%.
Keeping up, trying to conduct the fake news symphony. It's tough. Okay, give me a second because we heard all of that. They kept it real for a change. Talking about that this crap that just hit didn't just fall out of the sky right after Putin decided to invade Ukraine.
Black voters are more conservative than you are. White woke leaders in Washington, D.C. Hispanic voters are more conservative than you are. White woke leaders in Washington, D.C. Asian American voters are more conservative than you are. White woke voters in Washington, D.C. And they're more conservative on crime. They're more conservative on education. They're more conservative on, quote, these woke issues. Get off of Twitter. Can you please? I know you've done it a lot.
No.
Can you explain to white woke leaders? Can you explain to them that they're not only losing white dudes in the upper Midwest, they're losing people of color.
They're losing people of color because they really don't get the people of color's life. If you are living in a city, in a neighborhood that is inundated with crime, and you act like that is not an issue, you've already lost me. That is an issue. Yes, we must deal with policing. I've been out front of that. But you cannot ignore when 12-year-old kids who's somebody's niece and neighbor is killed, and you act like that's a non-issue because you're too elitist to live on the ground.
She's concerned the far left of the party is opening them up to being branded socialists. There's also the issue of crime. Some cities controlled by Democrats have DAs who won't prosecute certain offenses. There's also an assault on free speech from the left that's hurting the party. Lauren, you have some polls. The top issues for the midterm elections. For Democrats, what are they? What did you find?
Prices, the economy. I mean, it trumps every other issue, and it trumps it not just for Democrats, for Republicans, for voters of color, really right across the board. And it's not even close. By double digits, it's the most important issue.
And you break it down between men and women. How well is the economy working for you? This is interesting.
Women, particularly, the economy is not working well for them. 58% of women say that the economy is personally not working well for them, that they're worried about the impact of prices on their ability to support their families, to pay for basic necessities. But if all those employed people can't buy groceries, we have a serious problem.
Kitchen table, too.
It's kitchen table, but Mika, it's more than just messaging. It's more than whether or not Democrats have a slogan that says Democrats deliver. It's what are we actually going to do to intervene to try to lower prices, lower inflation, until people see that happen and feel it in their pocketbooks.
Sometimes
I don't think the messages matter.
Sometimes it's a problem.
It's a problem.
Exactly.
And you got to show you're dealing with the problem, because let's remember that all of this happened while the Democrats were in power. You told us to put you in power. We put you in power, and now I can't afford the life I'm living. You've got to tell me how you're going to deal with that, because I put you in power there to understand me, not to preach to me.
You do realize, Pete, a lot of black people feel like Democrats have kept no promises since they've been in office.
Really?
Yes. Reverend Island said that a million times. I'm sure he'll be pressing you about that, Mark.
Look, I get it.
For President Biden, the outlook is pretty grim. War abroad, anxiety at home, and inflation at its highest level in 40 years.
Sky-high inflation is erasing bigger paychecks. While hourly earnings are up 5.6% over last year, nearly 1 in 5 workers says they run out of money before they get their next check.
You have historic inflation. You have record gas prices. Americans are feeling it.
Biden's numbers have dropped by double digits with young voters, and they were a big part of his coalition in 2020.
Voter anxiety is about more than rising prices or Russia's war in Ukraine. Violent crime in American cities remains persistently high, and there is a growing problem at the border.
President Biden's approval rating still hasn't found bottom, and it's been slowly trending down all year.
And every time we talk about gas prices, Democrats do, President Biden does, it's always Putin's price hike. They're trying to blame, of course, the Russian president and the invasion of Ukraine for the jump in prices. But of course, as polling suggests, this president is going to take a lot of the blame here.
Putin is trying to bait the trap.
Biden has called it a Putin price hike, but most Americans aren't buying it.
With the midterms now just a few months away and inflation at a record high, the president is now putting the blame squarely on Vladimir Putin, calling this the Putin price hike.
Putin is trying to bait the trap.
But as Republicans and the president's critics have been quick to note, gas prices were already rising before Russia started this war.
The White House is trying to do both. Blame Putin, blame the oil and gas companies, but Americans just don't agree.
Putin is trying to bait the trap.
God bless you. God bless America. Don't forget to hit that like button, share my videos, find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those good things. And please check out Extreme Teas, my sponsor. If you like their products, please click on the link below this video. Put Kevin in a promo code. You'll get a 20% discount. If you'd like to donate to Kevin's Corner, feel free. The links are below this video. If you want to be a part of my $2 a month club, also feel free to do that. All it entails is you simply dropping $2 a month into one of those links below the video. Or if you want, you can drop a nice big fat lump sum in there to offset the stuff that we know goes on with big tech. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Make sure that you are still subscribed. And finally, set your notification button to all, because YouTube is playing games, y'all. Now, God bless you. God bless America. See y'all next time in Kevin's Corner.